I'm going to be presenting about the upcoming revisions to ISO 10218-1 and -2. And this is of interest to everyone around the world. Well, it's not just because it's an ISO standard, but it's because the U.S. nationally adopts the standard. And this is what goes underneath the cover of the standard we know and love called R1506. This also goes under the cover in Canada under Z434. This also is adopted in Japan, Korea, India, China, all of Europe, and some of the non-European or Eastern European countries. It is also used within Russia, but I know nothing because there's not much communications happening with Russia. So these revisions will be quite valuable globally. We've been working on them over 5 years, and this is also through COVID, through having delays and the like. This is going to be a major revision. We have something that we do, which is called harmonization for Europe, so that if standards become harmonized, meaning listed in the official journal for the machinery directive, they place a presumption of conformity on the robot application, and so forth. And this is a real plus, but this has been a great challenge for us, because nowadays to become a harmonized standard means that you have to have very specific requirements. It doesn't tell you how to comply, but it gives you very specific requirements. So that means both our Part 1, which goes to all robot manufacturers, is approximately 1.5 times longer. And this means our Part 2 is over 2 times longer than the 2011 editions. So there is significantly more content. The technology has advanced. We have to advance with it. And then we also have to recognize what's needed to provide protection for people when they're trying to make use of everything. In these revisions, as I mentioned, we're now required to actually give hard requirements. It's not how to design it, but the end goal for certain things. In the past, we never mentioned that materials have to be suitable for use. It seems pretty obvious, but now it's mentioned. We haven't mentioned that the strength of materials has to at least meet a particular, if you want to say, factor or coefficient. Some people might call it a safety margin, but since it's a safety standard, you don't have safety margins, you have factions, coefficients. That was never mentioned before. And so you can imagine that there could very well be 2 robots that somebody thinks are exactly the same, and one meets a particular margin and another one barely meets the margin of expected use. So this is the whole purpose behind this, is to have an even playing field, and also to be for end users, whoever is getting this product, to have a feeling that what they get is going to be able to do what they expect it should. So those are 2 simple explanations. The most complex aspect is around the topic of functional safety. It is mentioned there are requirements in the 2011 document, but the requirements are actually quite limited. There's only a requirement of functional safety for the emergency stop and the protective stop. Everything else becomes optional, so to speak. I think it's going to be for Part 1, maybe 2023 or very early 2024. Document for Part 1 actually goes and has something like 30 safety functions specified as to what triggers it, intended results, and in all cases, a required performance level within functional safety. Big, huge change. And everybody might think, well, this is going to be really tough for robot manufacturers. And the response to that is, I really doubt it. I think for almost every robot manufacturer, and I'll put myself in this bucket, we have some small changes to make. Nothing terrible, to be very truthful. More if it's about documentation so that we can submit to get for certification for the additional safety functions. But we've got it pretty much all. And I would say that probably the same thing is true for all of the robot manufacturers, all of my friendly competitors. Most major robot manufacturers have been involved in this revision from the beginning. It's not a surprise to everyone. But as with anything, once it looks like something's going to happen, that's when all the gears engage and everybody starts getting everything done. So I do full well expect that you will see all major robot manufacturers in compliance with the new standard within a year or 2 years. And so you might say, well, it comes out right very soon. How come 2 years or 1 year? There is always some form of a grace period in which you can overlap. So you might find there'll be some manufacturers which will be in compliance earlier than others, but it doesn't make anyone better or worse. It's just how easy it is to get all the gears engaged and get moving ahead.